Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sales Circle, where we intend to bring you lots of useful hints, tips, advice on everything to do with sales, marketing and business growth. My name is Rob Spence, your host, and I'm the Managing Director of Paragon Sales Solutions, and I'm thrilled to introduce to you Duncan Turner of Harwood HR Solutions. Duncan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me along.
No, thank you. I'm glad we did that in one take with no mistakes as well. So listen, thanks for joining us today. It might be worth, if you're happy, to introduce yourself, tell us about you, your business, and we'll flow from there.
Okay, well, I'll start with the business. That's the easiest thing to explain. We're exactly what it says on the tin, Rob. We're an outsourced HR consultancy that provides HR and employment law service to micro and small to medium-sized businesses, essentially. So there's lots of us out there, big and small, but we like to think that we offer a very personalised service, very proactive service. We offer good advice, and we've built the business up over time through referrals for existing clients, etc., etc. So we've got a nice, solid business, 6.5 years in the making.
Fantastic.
And we're just in the process of adding things like health and safety to the portfolio. And we've recently launched a training and development portal as well, live training and development portal. So things keep evolving, but effectively that's what we are.
No, fantastic. No, great. And look, I've been a long-term admirer of yourself in the business. It's been great to see your journey over the years. You know, it's been great to see it all expand, and I'm excited you've got the new website, which I think is live now, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, live this week. So yeah, we're chuffed a bit with that as well. So that should help push things on again into that little bit more professional again. And every time you build a website, you think you've cracked it, right? And then you look at it 6 months later and think, oh gosh, that's awful. So so yeah, the new one for now looks fantastic. Chuffed a bit with it.
Perfect. Well, it might be worth you going and have a look. We'll drop a link to Duncan's website below, so do go check it out. But obviously, so the business has been going for 6.5 years, I think you said.
Yeah, around that, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm sure that's not the only job you've had in your life. So before this recording, I've had a good look through your LinkedIn. So tell me about your journey. From leaving school to getting into business and employment. What was that journey like?
Interesting and varied. So if I take you all the way back without boring everyone to tears, I left education to join a management training program years ago. I mean, it's the 90s, right? So
that wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, no. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, and it was a management training scheme with a food retailer called Budgeon's Stores. Budgeon's at the time were a small-ish food retailer based in the southeast of the UK. They've since expanded and moved and been bought out there, but back then it was purely food retail. I joined them as a trainee supermarket manager, modern day sort of Curly Watts, trained in all the areas, and then became an assistant store manager, and then ultimately a store manager when I was still pretty young, actually.
Right.
Probably too young, to be quite honest with you, but at that point in time, the organisation then gave me an opportunity to go and help to train managers in management skills development. And the reason for that is that their head of training had developed this program called Value in People.
Right.
And it was Value in People 1, Value in People 2, and they'd got trained professional trainers in to deliver it. But what they were struggling with was getting store managers, retail store managers to take it on board, really, because they're saying that's all well and good, but in the real world, you haven't got a clue what you're talking about, right? And so my job was to go in and actually say to store managers, actually, they do know what they're talking about. Management skills are key, and this is how I interpret them in the business. And I was picked out because apparently at that point in time, I was pretty good at that sort of stuff. So joined that training team. They trained me to be train the trainer, and then I spent 2 years rolling that training program out of hotels, living out of hotels like Alan Partridge. Yeah, exactly. It was embarrassing. And then after 2 years, I'd had enough, and I said to the training manager, look, I can't be doing this forever. And she said, oh, okay, you've got two options. You can go back to the store and do that. And I'll be honest, it didn't interest me. Putting beans on shelves and all the rest of it didn't really float my boat, but I did get a bit of an interest in this people bit. But she said either that or you can join the HR team but you've got to take a big pay cut, do all your training again, and etc. So that's what I did. Joined HR, did my professional qualifications, which they sponsored over a number of years. Long story short, I ended up, as a senior HR head at Budgeons, and 10 years later, cut my teeth in HR basically, and worked with some terrific HR professionals along the way. Learned lots of great practice, and also how not to do things as well. And at the end of 10 years, it was time for me to move on.
Yeah.
So I then joined Sytner Group, which is a Leicestershire-based business. Gosh, Sytner Group has evolved so much now as well. But back then in 2004, it had just been acquired by a company called Penske Corporation. It was still a relatively small motor group, just focusing on prestige cars and actually BMW mainly. And I joined that group, and I was the divisional head of HR for Toyota Lexus, and I moved to BMW, and then I was effectively headhunted by Porsche Cars Great Britain to go and be their HR director for Porsche Cars Great Britain. So
how did that, if you don't mind me asking, how did that feel to be headhunted by such a prestigious company?
Oh, well, it was a proper ego boost, right? Because I was 29 at the time, and Porsche brand is a brand I loved anyway, still love today. It was a proper nerve-wracking experience because it was a major lift in position, and it was a massive brand. But you got no fear in those days, right? And the answer was always going to be yes. So I left Sytner Group, Penske Corporation, Sytner Group, to join Porsche Cars. And I was with them for a number of months, enjoying life. The problem with Porsche Cars Great Britain is it's actually a wholly owned subsidiary of Porsche AG in Germany. Right. So whilst the Porsche Group's enormous, the UK GB isn't a huge business. Actually, it's 400 employees, and it effectively imports Porsches and controls the dealer network. So I could have easily have stayed in that job for years, driving 911s around.
Sounds horrible.
Dreadful. Brilliant company. However, the reality was that from a career perspective, there's only so far you can grow in there, unless you were prepared to move to Germany or something like that to take. And even then, it's a stretch.
Quite limited.
Yeah. So I was only there a number of months, and actually Penske Corporation called me out of the blue, and it was my mentor then from Penske, a guy called Randall Johnson, who I've got so much time for as an HR guy. And he rang me just to say, hey, how are you getting on? Really supportive. And he said, look, we've got an opportunity for you. I know you've only been at Porsche for what seems like 5 minutes, but we've got a big opportunity. Roger Penske, who's the billionaire that owns Penske Corporation, has just bought a manufacturing group, and he wants you to come along and take the HR lead in this global manufacturing business. It's way before you should get it, but we want you back, and will you consider it? So I'm sat there in my office in Porsche thinking, oh crap, right? I don't really want to have this decision because I don't really want to move, but at the same time I can't ignore that offer. So I agreed to meet Roger. Roger flew in to Birmingham Airport on his private jet, and we met at Solihull BMW on Saturday morning. And long story short, within a half an hour of meeting Rod shook his hand on rejoining him and joining Penske Corporation to work in a company called Trucklight. Then I had to go back to Porsche and explain that I just accepted a job. The MD of Porsche at the time, a guy called Andy Goss, lovely chap, but he was understandably really annoyed. Really annoyed, and we parted ways, and I left Porsche probably too quickly, but
right.
Yeah, I couldn't turn down the opportunity that was given to me. So then that's Trucklight. So Trucklight was 7 manufacturing plants across Europe, tier 1 supplier to passenger car and truck and trailer. So it's C&BC and stuff. So it's mirrors on cars, internal light clusters, headlights,
right?
All the stuff that is on every car.
Yeah,
they made it. And a complete culture shock because I went from Porsche to effectively a manufacturing business that you know, and some of the plants were like they were sort of built in the 70s and hadn't changed from the 70s. But that episode of my life was really incredible because I was there I joined there in 2008. I left in 2012, so it was only 4 years.
Yeah.
But if you remember the financial crisis in 2008, so we joined, and then my job was to basically hold that business together over 4 years, make redundancies, short work weeks, negotiation with work councils in Germany, flying between Poland, Germany. It was just crazy times. But a massive baptism of fire into that area. So
can you imagine, if you don't mind me asking, because I assume if I've got my maths correct, you must have been at this stage around early 30s, give or take?
Yeah, sort of going into, gosh, I can't do my maths, but yeah, so going into sort of, early to mid 30s.
Yeah. So obviously that sounds like a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of pressure, a lot of stress.
Yeah.
How did you cope with that?
I think at the time, I didn't have a family, right? So I hadn't. I met my now wife in 2008. I'd previously divorced, but I was no children, no real massive commitments to much, right? I had a mortgage, but it wasn't enormous, and I think you just had this almost youthful ignorance to stress.
Yeah.
You know, you just say yes and go for it, and yes and go for it, and you push yourself out and put yourself into these uncomfortable positions. But there's never been really a position where I felt completely exposed. I think that the biggest exposure I've probably had was when I had to go and do a talk in front of the Eisenach. It was a place in old East Germany, to the workforce, to tell them that we're going to make some reductions. And the work council introduced me in this town hall in Eisenach, and it was all in German language.
Right.
I had no idea what they were talking about. And I found myself waiting to be brought up onto stage thinking, what am I doing here? You know, and I think as well, when I left Porsche, I left them on the Friday, and on the Monday I was flown out to Germany for a meeting in Trucklight. We then took a private jet from Germany to Poland, which was one of the other plants. And I remember sitting on that jet thinking, how's this happened? You know what I mean? 4 or 5 months ago, I was working for Sittner Group in Leicester, and now I'm
on a private jet. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't anything like a Kardashian.
No, sell it.
But you know,
10, no one knows.
But it was, you know what I mean? It's just strange, and you sort of don't think about it until afterwards.
Yeah.
But you go, my goodness, my world changed very quickly, you know, in that period of time.
Yeah.
So that whole Trucklight experience was difficult, but I worked with some amazing people. So the guy they put in charge of the European operation, Penske put him in charge of the European operation, was a guy called Ludwig Vols, and Ludwig was ex-CEO of Bosch, come out of retirement to help with it. And my gosh, what I learned off that guy, right? So we're going through this massive credit banking crisis. We're making cuts, we're reconfiguring manufacturing businesses and all of this stuff. And this guy was leading it, and I'm just sucking up everything that he was saying, the way he acted, the way he conducted himself, this professionalism. The guy was just, I want to be him.
Nice.
I want to be that professional in my life. And so you take a lot from that. We had a finance guy, Stefan Thinkston, really, really clever guy, could speak fluent in 5 languages and all that stuff. And I'm just this guy from Leicester, right? That's there, that's pretty decent HR. And I think then you start to realise how good you are.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not there by accident. You're there because you're pretty good at what you're doing. And then suddenly your self-confidence, you start to realise, hold on a minute, I'm pretty good at what I do. And it's not a fluke. And it can't be a fluke because no point in time have I felt exposed or been caught out. So we just keep going with it and
Just going through the motions, so to speak.
Yeah. So Trucklight, after 4 years, I just thought it's time to move on. And I actually was approached by two organisations. One was in Dubai. It was a company called Altair Group, and they were the equivalent of Sittner in Dubai, basically. Right. So they said, come over to Dubai and come and have a wonderful life over there. And I have to say, we were really tempted. No children, And we said, look, this is an adventure, and we'd eyed up an apartment on the Palm and all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, my wife got skin cancer, and quite a bad case of it. So she was under medical supervision in London, Royal London Hospitals, and I just basically said to that group, look, I'm prepared to come over, but my wife will stay. Well, actually, she wasn't my wife at the time as well. We were going to have to get married to make it work, and we were going to get married anyway. So, but I said, look, I'll come over. My wife will stay at home, and they just got cold feet. They said, look, actually, we don't think you're going to be that committed. We want your wife to come over with you. We'll put her into a hospital over here. And I said, I'm sure that hospital is brilliant because everything in Dubai is.
Yeah.
But I'm not prepared to take my wife from the specialist she's been seeing in London. I'm sorry. So I got cold feet then. And then I looked at another job opportunity that was being presented to me with a company called Dollar Financial Group.
Right.
And Dollar Financial Group were the largest underbanked financial service provider in the world at that point in time. When I say underbanked, most people realise that means payday lending.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's the dirty, horrible world of payday lending, pawnbroking, which also has a bad name for itself. But actually, there's nothing wrong with pawnbroking. It's the second oldest profession in the world.
Yeah.
But certainly, payday lending was an industry that had a murky underbelly, right? And they basically brought me in to looking after HR for the rest of the world. When I say rest of the world, is outside of America.
Right.
So it was UK, Europe, Australasia, EMEA. Well, and I looked at it and went, well, firstly, a lot of it is e-commerce. I haven't worked for an e-commerce business before. Secondly, this is a global role. I'll go for it. So I joined them as the vice president of HR for that group. Again, long story short, on joining them, the whole agenda changed because it went from global domination to we're going to introduce you to what at the time the FSA, then they later become the FCA, and we had a meeting with those guys, and they said, "Look, wonderful to have you on board. We've looked at your back history, and you look all very credible people." Because it wasn't just me that had joined; there was a couple of other guys, and they said, "Look, you all look very credible. However, we hate your industry and we hate what you do, and we're going to manage half of this industry out of business within the next 4 years."
Wow.
That was our first meeting with the FCA, and that's the tone that it took, really. So the first job we had was to look at the business and then go back to our then owners in the US to say, "Hey, this is going to be the impact on the UK business and European business." So we went back over and explained that, and they said, "There's absolutely no way that's going to be the impact on this business." It was huge, right? The numbers were staggering. So they didn't believe us, really. So they sent over some consultants, the typical, the McKinsey consultants.
Yeah.
Super good-looking people from Switzerland, with Rolexes and all the rest of it. Really intelligent guys. So they spent probably about 3 months in the business interviewing us and went back with exactly the same numbers.
Yeah.
They got and then once they got their head around that, our task then was to completely reconfigure the business. They then brought in a guy, again, a big impact on my career, a guy called Stuart Harwood, who was brought in by the then CEO to look after the UK business. And Stuart and I forged a very good relationship very quickly, talking the same language, had the same vision.
Yeah.
And Stuart, just sharp, razor sharp financier who just can see, literally, you can give him a set of accounts and he can see straight through them. And it's like, how do you know that? Just from reading, So and there's other good people there as well.
Yeah.
But Stuart, so I got close with Stuart, and Stuart then took me under his wing, really. And the role evolved from being HR into Chief Operating Officer for the UK. And we did all sorts of stuff. Like, we had to close big sections of the business down. One of the brands was the Money Shop. So people might...
Oh, yeah.
Money
I remember the Money Shop. Yeah.
We had over 1,000 stores when we started. Unfortunately, that business doesn't exist anymore. But we had to right-size the business. We had to close down some of our online lending and do all sorts of things. That renegotiate payback agreements with clients that we'd unfairly sold to under the new law, but actually the law wasn't in place when we'd started, so it didn't feel fair. But look, you've got to survive, so you do it. And again, over that period of time, we managed to get the business through regulation, and then the owners said, "Look, we want to sell the business on." And this is all, by the way, I could talk about this forever, cause but then Stuart then was charged with getting the business sold. So Stuart, myself, and one or two others formed a group of people that then spent the next 18 months, 2 years trying to sell the business, basically. Again, a whole new podcast on that, by the way. But ultimately, the business managed to get sold to a private equity company. And that was the end of 2015. Yeah, 2000. No, sorry, what am I talking about? End of 2017.
Right.
And then early 2018, the new PE company came in and basically said, look, what we're doing with this business is we're going to shut it all down, basically sell the debt.
Yeah.
And what we want you to do is not, rather than do the COO role, because we don't need you in a COO role, we want you to do an HR role because we've heard you're decent at that. And we want you to go around all of our European sort of, and go and sort them all out. And I said, no, thank you, it's not for me. And I meant that in the nicest possible way.
Of course, yeah.
But they didn't take it in the nicest possible way, and we had a big fallout. And,
Right.
Long story short, a couple of phone calls and legals later, I departed.
Yeah.
And at one point, I thought I was departing with zero money. But actually, I ended up keeping my sales bonus and being made redundant. It all worked out in the end. So in March 2018, I was then, for the first time in my life, no job.
Yeah.
But with a load of money in the bank, right? Which,
Well, if you don't mind me asking, obviously, I assume it's been made a lot better with the money in the bank. But how did it feel to suddenly just have no job?
Terrifying.
Right.
I thought I'd be fine with it. I thought, actually on the build up to it happening, in my mind, I thought this is going to be fantastic because I got a young daughter and one on the way. I'd worked my arse off my whole life, and the last couple of years had been, probably the last 4 or 5 years had been so stressful, I can't tell you. And actually, I didn't realise how stressful it was until it was over.
Yeah.
When I finally negotiated my exit and I'm sat there with no job, that's when your stress floods out.
Yeah.
I remember my brother-in-law took me out for a drink to the pub to sort of semi-celebrate, right? And I just couldn't handle it. And that night I went home and I just cried my eyes out. Wow. And I don't know why to this day. It's crazy. But it was the stress coming out. My wife said, you have just looked. Everyone then I spoke to afterwards said, you've looked dreadful for years. Thank God you're out of that because you just look great. And within a couple of months, I started to get a bit of my energy back. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't relax because I didn't know where the next paycheck was coming from, right? So I didn't have enough to retire forever, unless I wanted a very, very, very simple life. That's not me. I like nice things and everything I pick up costs a fortune, but I knew I had to have a plan B, and it wasn't until I figured that plan B in my mind that I could relax. So my wife said, look, let's go away. Let's take some time off. I bought into that temporarily. She booked a holiday to Tenerife, went off to Tenerife, and whilst I was in Tenerife, I decided to set up my own business, set up this consultancy. It was always a dream of mine in the back of my mind over there, but just didn't think that it would ever happen. And I think if I'd have stayed in corporate world, I would never have had the guts to do it because it's walking away from big salary to do it. But I thought this is my opportunity. So basically I started the business informally in Tenerife, and I got my first client whilst in Tenerife.
Oh, wow.
Because I put something on, I can't remember what I put something on LinkedIn, and somebody I used to work with who had moved on, and they were then actually the CEO or managing director of a company called MyJar lending company, Carolyn. She phoned me and said, "Hey, look, I've got some work for you if you want it." So I actually got my first gig whilst on holiday, and my wife was like, "Oh, great." So your time
holiday over. Yeah,
so that's it. So that's when it started. That's how it was born, and the rest is another conversation. But that's the boring bit of history.
Not boring at all. Really in depth. Really in depth. So you're there in Tenerife. This first new client hits the doors, you know, and obviously you then have to kind of go away and sort of build a business. So if you don't mind me asking, was there a business plan? Was there any plan?
No, not at the start. No, only a dream,
right,
and a vision. And the vision, really, I had the vision in my mind for a long, long time. My middle name is Harwood, and it's never used. It's my father's middle name, and then it was given to me as an eldest son, and then it won't carry on because I've got 2 daughters, so I'm the last Harwood. So I've always had this thing where I don't care what I do. I don't care if it's Harwood car sales or Harwood chip shop or that name's in it. So that's part of the vision. But working for myself was part of the vision. And the reality is, if you do that, the sensible thing is to do something that you're good at, right? So what I knew was that was the name of the business, and I've spent all these years in HR forging this career, so that's what I must do.
Yeah,
right. So that's about as far as it got. So yeah, the first client was, look, I was just going to take anything, right? And she wanted some help with some HR stuff, and I went along, and it was a day rate, and did a good deal. But hey, first client, right?
Yeah, well,
and then that actually turned into me providing that whole company with outsourced HR support, which then gave me, okay, maybe that's the way forward, this retained HR support piece. I took quite a few big project work bits from big PLCs, again through contacts, etc. And it paid really well, but very quickly I thought, I'm not happy doing this. This is like stepping back into corporate world again.
Yeah.
But with even less guarantee, because I'm on this day rate, right? And that's not what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to build a business, not be a consultant.
Absolutely. And I think that's the danger in you know, sort of a lot of people that are in your industry and what they do. You can and even for me as a sales and marketing individual, you know, I know consultants that, for want of a better term, they put all their eggs in one basket. You know, they take on some great contract work. It's great. They're earning some good money, but that contract can end in the click of a finger. And it doesn't feel, for them, it doesn't feel like a business, because they're still exchanging that time for money. They are still working for someone. It's just how that money is kind of handed over, for want of a better term, is just different, isn't it? So
yeah. And also, I think I realised that having gone through a big business sale of a business that wasn't mine for a huge amount of money, I thought, yeah, I want a piece of that. I remember saying to myself, look, the next time I'm sitting in front of a private equity company or a sales acquisition company will be when I'm selling my own business, because that's where you get that's the difference, right?
Yeah. Between
earning a very good salary and having a very good lifestyle versus having an exceptional lifestyle and an exceptional salary. That's the difference. You know, if staying in corporate world, you can climb that ladder and you can earn a fortune, but it's always capped.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like when I used to go all the way back to working at Sytner, when you went into Grey Paul Ferrari in Nottingham, and the guys coming in buying Ferraris, they were not your FTSE 100 directors, right? It was your owner of the building company from Leicester.
Yeah.
It was your owner of that cash and carry business from Nottingham. It was your entrepreneur guys, right? It was your business owners that were buying the Ferraris. And again, this sounds all very, who cares? But that's where the real money is made.
Absolutely.
And having gone through that business sale thing, I thought, look, we've just all that stress I've been through for effectively someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I didn't get paid handsomely for doing it. I was, but nothing like what some people were paid for doing none of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
I think you touched upon something off camera, really. It was a really good conversation, you know, and that is something that I'm reading about in a book at the minute. You know, we can all work for big money if we want to, you know, like I say, you can go work in a big company, get 100 grand a year plus a pension and a car, the occasional bonus. But sometimes you have to work for a reason, for a drive, for something that drives and gives you that feeling of self-worth. And, you know, we can all be sat there on our deathbed looking back on life thinking, oh, great, I earned good money, I've got loads of money in the bank. Yeah. Or you can look back on life and say, hey, look at what I built. Look at this company. You know, I've carried my father's name on into business and grown it that way. And if memory serves me right, that's a similar conversation you had with your now managing director. Is that right? You sold the dream.
Yeah. So one of the biggest, best decisions I made was exactly that, the managing director appointment, right? So Zoe, who I'd known for 10, 11 years prior, because she'd worked at Dollar Financial Group, she'd worked with me in different roles. You meet people and you just think there's something about that individual, the work ethic, their honesty, they're just different.
They just get it.
They just get it, right? And they stand off a page and they just get it. And very quickly, when I left Dollar, of course, the whole business was going through turmoil because actually it was being broken down and sold off. So Zoe had left Dollar probably about a week after I left. But then she was on honeymoon, lying on a beach. She's got redundancy money. And I know that she was interviewing for jobs with, I think, one with Mercedes-Benz and things like that. And I just rang her. Text her because she was on a beach. And I convinced her to join the business while she was on honeymoon. And I was sending her decks that I'd just made up with business plans and all that sort of stuff. And by the time she'd left her honeymoon, her husband, Sean, a great guy, had said, look, you'll regret it if you don't do it. Do you trust him? And she said, yes, just go and do it. And Zoe come on board and she took a huge pay decrease. But I'd promised her equity in that business. I promised to give her 30% of the business if we got to a certain point by a certain time frame. And I wanted that to happen, by the way. It wasn't just like I didn't want it, So we made that. She's now owns 30% of the business. But what a great decision at the time, even though I was paying her out of my own pocket for 2 years. And I did. To this day, I look back and go, why wasn't I more stressed? But I just knew it was right.
Yeah.
And that started the journey for Harwood HR Solutions, because what Zoe brings to the table are things I don't have.
Yeah.
And what I bring to the table are things that she doesn't have. I can have a bad day. We all have bad days. We all have anxieties. We all have days where you get up and think, oh my God, what was yesterday like? But it seems that when I have one of those, Zoe's on an up day.
Nice.
When Zoe's on a down day, I'm having a positive day. And it tends to work that way. In fact, we're also not in the office together all the time as well. So I think that helps a little bit as well, because we're not, sometimes you can feed on each other's negativity sometimes, right? And so that was, is a big decision.
So a bit of a question, and I'm hoping she doesn't watch this because this could make her head swell up. Do you feel, the business has been going 6.5 years, we've been long-term admirers, you're clearly doing some really good things.
Yeah.
Do you feel you would be as successful without her?
No. No. I could, there's no question I could go out and earn loads of money doing consultancy work and I'm sure I'd make a success of the business, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the speed and the professional element to some of the things we do. So for example, we're just about to launch a health and safety portal.
Yeah.
Now Zoe's project managed that. We've also somebody called Lois who's coming on. Lois is self-employed, but we're in partnership with Lois on this. And these two guys, honestly, Lois is so good at that stuff, and Zoe's so good at that stuff. And I went along to those early meetings with them, and I haven't got a clue. Honestly, I just sat there and got, look, I can waste my time trying to get this.
Yeah.
Or I can leave it to you guys and I'll go over there. So for sure, if Zoe wasn't in the team, we probably wouldn't have the health and safety portal coming on board. Zoe has brought in a huge number of clients, So look, if Zoe had gone and done her own thing, then she'd have been successful.
Yeah.
I'd have been successful. I think the key thing here is that Zoe's always said to me that unless I'd have asked her to do it, Zoe wouldn't have done this. Because it's taking that step into running the business and all the rest of it. So she needed me to do it, and then for her to come on board, and I've needed her to come on board as well. Yeah, for it to become a team. And that's very lucky.
No, that's really nice. We'll send this on to you, Zoe, later on, just for backup. But I think it's really nice because I think, and you'll get this because obviously your background and what you do within HR. I think the people are the best asset of any business, and many business owners make the mistake of hiring great people in and making them work the way that the business owner wants them to work and ruining them. Whereas actually you need to be bringing in great talent that can boost and benefit you. You know, I think Henry Ford was right in saying, you know, he brings in people around him to be smarter than him, you know, so that he can push on and do what he's best at and have team members at what they're good at. It sounds like a great partnership between you two.
Yeah, and the other guys as well. I mean, like, you know, we've brought in, everyone we brought into the business has added something additional, right? So, you know, but Charlotte's come in, and Charlotte we've known for a long time as well, and Charlotte's got a lot of background in public sector stuff, which is that's nuance. That's you know, if you haven't worked in the public sector, HR is very different. So she's got all that experience she brings in. She's got calmness about her, and we brought Emily in, and Emily's just brilliant at policy, procedure, handbook writing. What she produces is far better than what I can produce, because I haven't got the patience for it, frankly. So everyone, you know, and Lois coming in as well. So everyone that's come in has their own skill set and have brought their own things to the team. Absolutely. But the other thing as well is that everyone that's come in, we're bringing them on the journey, right? So they're not in jobs. We don't call them jobs. They're coming in, and they're part of the bigger picture. So everyone's on long-term incentive plans. Right?
Yeah.
So look, our aim isn't to make a quick buck and get out and sell this business for as much as we can get, right? I mean, granted, if somebody comes in and offers you £30 million business, £40 million, you're going to be daft not to snap their hands off, right?
Yeah.
It's not all about the exit, albeit having an exit option is valuable, right? For me, you've got to think about a longer term plan, and again, I get it. You know, some entrepreneurs build businesses, spin them on, build another business, spin them on, because that's what they're great at doing. They're great at starting businesses. They're massive risks. They don't care about borrowing money, and they do a brilliant job of doing that, and they become incredibly wealthy doing it. That's not me, right? Our business has been built and organically. We don't, you know, it's all our own money. So because I'm paranoid about borrowing money, I don't want to do any of that. Yeah. So I'd rather grow at a steady pace and grow at the pace that we're comfortable with, and build the culture out that we're comfortable with, and stick to our principles about what we enjoy doing, and pick and choose clients we want to work with, rather than growing at 1,000 miles an hour just to get to a valuation point where you go, okay, I can sell the business for, I don't know, £5 million, but I'm still 48.
Yeah.
And you go, that sounds like a lot of money, and is a lot of money, but I've got a lot of living to do. So divide that by the amount of years you've got left in your life, and actually it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think you can, the wealth you generate through your business is, if you get your business to be an incredibly profitable business that you enjoy working in, just have fun working in it and earn from it. And then actually the exit is later on in your life. You need less.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you need less, actually, you're open-minded to MBOs and you know, employees taking it on and all the rest of it, rather than having to sell it for a song to some group that's going to swallow it up and do whatever.
And it will vanish. And I love that. I think the key takeaway there, and I love that, is having fun. You know, I say to the team here all the time, spend the majority of our lives in work. Yeah. You know, you've got to enjoy it, you know, whilst you can, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, just quickly then, and obviously for you, viewer, we are going to be changing the name of our podcast very soon to How I Failed My Business. We will try and make it a bit catchy, but How I Failed My Business. And within this podcast, we're going to talk to business owners and entrepreneurs about the things that they've done wrong. I mean, Duncan, are you willing to share any stories, any mistakes you've made? You don't have to name people, figures or anything, but...
Yeah, well, look, I think we've been... when I look back, we had this conversation the other day, actually, in the office, and we said, look, is there anything we'd change, right? And there's plenty of stuff we've done wrong, but there's nothing really we would change. Because I think whatever we've done wrong, we've learned from and we've moved on. And I think that there's two... The main one that stands out for me is in the early days, we spent probably a little too long trying to figure out what it is we wanted to be without actually sort of putting some proper focus on it and actually reaching out and getting some help with it.
Right.
So one of the biggest things we've done that added value was we got a business coach, right? And I know people say, oh yeah, okay, business coaches, it depends on the coach. Of course it does, right? It depends on the coach you use and it depends on your relationship with the coach. But we found a really good coach, a guy called Mark Jennings in Hinkley. He's an action coach. And what he did for us was he made us slow down and he made us plan and he made us think long term. And that process kept us incredibly then focused. So where we made our most ground actually was COVID, believe it or not. So we started in sort of March 18 sort of time really. We've been operating a bit but earning no money basically. Then we started to grow and we started to pick up some clients. We thought, oh, okay, maybe we look at big clients. Oh no, that doesn't work. Maybe small clients. So we're still in that shifting. We've got a website that I'd set up from day one, which was off one of those GoDaddy things, and I'd made up a logo off one of the websites. So we were really fudging it.
Yeah.
And but finding our way. And then we just got into a bit of a groove. So we'd built a new website, we'd rebranded, and with Mark's help, we'd managed to decide exactly, we'd laser focused on this is what we do. And that laser focus was really helpful because it was, that's what we do, let's stick to it, that's our client, that's the offering, let's not waver from it, that's where we are. And then COVID hit and we were like, oh crap, right? So we'd got a handful of clients at that point in time, not many, and our biggest fear was we're going to lose all our clients, they're all going to go bust.
Yeah.
Because, God, no one knew it was going to happen, right? And what Mark did for us then was really to push us into things like, right, you've got to start doing some webinars and you've got to start, we were like, we hate doing webinars, I'm not doing that. I hate the camera, I'm not doing the camera stuff. So they tell you, webinars, free stuff, throw free stuff out there. So that's what we did. We threw ourselves into, this is what furlough is, this is how you need to, and we'd worked with some employment lawyers and we interpreted the whole thing. So we made sure that we were ahead of the game when every time there was an announcement that came out, we were on it with a webinar. And as a result, we picked up 120 new clients in COVID lockdown.
Wow, congratulations, yeah.
Which to me still beggars belief because I didn't think we'd get anybody. Oh, who the hell wants to sign up to an annual contract when we're still in COVID lockdown with 120 clients? And from there, we've just carried on and pushed on.
That's great. I mean, I think like as horrible as the COVID times were for obviously people on a personal level and a business level, I think the number one thing that everyone needed during those times was some form of HR services. It was very uncertain, unprecedented times. In fact, I think the word unprecedented actually came from COVID. I never heard of the word unprecedented until COVID came along. But there was announcements every day, every week. Being in Leicester was harder because we were locked down longer. We then had segmental lockdowns. And I remember as obviously as an employer, we were in a very troublesome position because we didn't at the time have proper registered addresses. So we weren't allowed, or we didn't have access to things like all the grants that they were giving out. Our team members hadn't been with us long enough to go through the whole furlough, so we were in a similar position. But there were many businesses out there scratching their heads actually scratching their heads was probably a bit light, head in hands every night going, what do I do? What is furlough? How do I do this? What is our return to work policy? What's our COVID policy? So I assume those webinars were fantastic ways of getting that information out there.
They were, and people, it was, and we longer term we picked up loads of clients that were in that difficulty. But actually, the clients that we picked up weren't necessarily COVID related clients. So one thing that amazed me during that period, the amount of startups, the amount of businesses actually that that were reconfiguring what they were doing, they were re-looking at what they were doing. And they were realising that actually when we come back out of COVID, we're going to do things properly. So we've got as many clients like that actually were seeing things through the positive spectrum of let's use this opportunity to work on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah.
as well as obviously, yes, we were picking up some clients that just desperately need a bit of help.
Sure.
But the advice that we were giving was all free during COVID. And then we found that people were saying, no, I want to sign up, I want to pay you. Really? Okay, that's bizarre. Okay, we'll sign you up then. And then once you get your head around that actually, you know what, business doesn't stop.
Right.
True business people carry on.
Yeah.
And there was a saying someone said to me, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. Right? And that makes a lot of sense, right? It's the same as a recession. When the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
Yeah.
Good businesses, yes, they struggle, but, if they're well organised, decent cash flow, decent reputation, loyal customers, they survive recessions.
Yeah. They'll have their trunks on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And that's the big thing for me. So the big is we made lots of mistakes. In fact, we lost a load of money with a lead gen company that wasn't your company. I wish we knew you.
No, definitely wasn't our company. So
yeah. No, we just picked the wrong. You just picked the wrong horse, right?
Yeah.
And but even that, you go, well, yeah, but we didn't have a crystal ball, so you can't beat yourself up over it, right?
Yeah.
And little bits and pieces, but overall, we've been pretty fortunate because we've remained positive.
Yeah.
Right, just stay positive. Tomorrow's a new day. Dust yourself off. Keep going. Stay focused. Stay true to what you do. Don't chase the money. Chase the opportunity, and the money will come.
Fantastic. Words to live by. So I guess final question to wrap up then, and it's a question we ask everyone. I mean, you might have just alluded to it then. I don't know, but if you could go back, so those 6.5 years ago, and you could go back in time and speak to younger Duncan and say, look, here's some words of advice, here's some words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Other than wearing swimming trunks when swimming in the sea, what advice would you give yourself?
Biggest thing for me today, and I'm still guilty of it, I think lots of people are guilty of it, is focus on your own plan. Focus on your own business. Focus on where you want to be as a business and ignore everything else, right? And what I mean by that is, look, social media, LinkedIn, there's lots of tools out there that are wonderful, right? And used correctly are just amazing tools to further your business. But don't get caught up in that business over there is similar to mine. How come they look like they're making £3 million net profit? The reality is you have no idea. And who cares? Who cares? As long as you are happy with where you are on that day, then that's all that matters. As long as you're moving forward every day, every year, who cares? The other thing for me is business is ups and downs. There's no such thing as a straight line, linear growth business. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days. You'll gain clients, you'll lose clients. Yeah. You lose clients because it's your fault. You lose clients because it's not your fault. Yeah. That's life, but keep focused and keep going. And have a plan. Because if you haven't got a plan, well, how the hell do you know where you are?
Where's the end goal? Yeah.
And by the way, if it's your business, like when you're in big corporate world, that's not your plan. It's someone else's plan. So when you're not hitting plan, you get beaten over the head with a stick. When it's your plan, you can change the plan. Right? I mean, you don't want to.
No.
But you can adjust it. But always make sure you've got something to celebrate all the time.
Love that. Yeah. Some really good words to live by, especially the competitor piece. Yeah. I could definitely do with that sometimes. I'm sure Rhea Molly are nodding a little bit behind the scenes there. So we all do it. Yeah.
You have no idea, do you? You have no idea what that company's doing, and who cares?
Absolutely, love it. Well, look, I'd love to sit here all night. It's getting late into the evening now. I'm sure a bottle of wine could be waiting for us if we had the time. But maybe if the viewer would like to carry the conversation on with you, we'll put a link to your website in the comments below. Can they reach out to you on LinkedIn? How's best to contact you?
Yeah, LinkedIn or just through the website. Give us a call. We're nice and open. So if anyone wants to talk, fantastic. However they want to communicate.
Perfect. Well, look. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you to you, our viewer, for taking part in watching this podcast or the vlog, or however you're digesting the information. Please do us a massive favour. Hit that subscribe button, drop some comments, like it. And why don't you share it to some friends, family? I'm sure your mum and dad would love to see this great episode. But thank you so much for watching. Until next time, all the best.